So this is my CT90. I plan on doing a full restoration on it. It will have to wait a little while because it's in a queue of a few bikes. However, I do intend to do a restoration. It's a bike I've had on my radar for quite some time. I've actually had it for a while. These are pretty rare in the UK because they were never officially imported here. This particular one is an American import. I believe the two main countries that these were exported to were America and Australia. And they do have a really interesting history, these bikes. In fact, they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our American cousins. A chap called Herbie in the late 50s was one of the first dealers to import Hondas. And he lived at the mountains in Idaho, where it was common for people to ride off-road and to ride into town off-road. Just a different landscape there altogether. And when he was selling Makos, which was it was more common to have an off-road bike there, enduro type bike, than it was a street bike. So when a dealer approached him, or it was actually Honda America, they approached him and they asked him if he would like to sell some Hondas. So he ordered two off-road bikes. But what he was unaware of is the bikes that he ordered were actually very special bikes. They were RC7s, I believe, which were race bikes. And he sold them immediately. And then he couldn't get any bikes after that because they didn't want to sell them anymore. So he went to the headquarters and they offered them CB72s, CB70s I think, and Honda Cubs. So he ordered some, and they arrived at his showroom, and he was looking at his Honda Cubs and he thought, how am I going to sell these? Street bike for off-road. So what he done was he modified it. He modified the bikes. He put knobbly tyres on them, removed the leg shields. He put a large rear sprocket in the back. He moved I think he slightly moved the shock absorber at the back to give it clearance, and he put a different exhaust on it. And he sold hundreds of them. So Honda was quite curious as to why he was managing to sell these, because they weren't selling as well even in the cities. So they got in contact with him and asked him, what's going on here? How come you're selling so many bikes? And he explained it to them, and they asked him to send them one. And when it got to headquarters, they actually sent it back to Japan. And they sent it back with the instruction, we want a bike built like this. And this is a testament to the philosophy of Honda or any of the Japanese companies. They'll listen. They'll listen to their clients, and they come back with something very similar to this. It was I think the first model was a CT200. This is a CT90, and the CT200 had an overhead valve engine and a dual rear sprocket at the back, where you could actually unhook the large sprocket and put the small one on for climbing. For the small sprocket for speed and the large sprocket for climbing, for the low gear. They also made other changes to the frame. I think they beefed the frame up, beefed the suspension up. They added this rear rack, a high level exhaust. The air filter was already high level anyway, so you could go underwater quite a bit with them. Looking at the wheels, they look chunkier. The guards are made of metal. Just beefed the bike up a bit, and they added this bash plate as well to protect the lower part of the engine. The pegs are foldable, so they certainly put some thought into it. Later on, what they done and this bike has it, was they added the dual range gearbox. So at the flick of a lever you can actually change the ratio from high to low. And what that means in effect is you have an 8-speed gearbox, and that is really useful. The engine itself is based on the Cub, very similar to in fact it's the same engine as the Cub. Most of the Cubs sold in the UK were 3-speed automatic. This is actually a 4-speed automatic. In effect it's an 8-speed given the high-low ratio. So that changes the whole landscape of the gearing of the bike. Another unique feature is the braking on it. You have the rear pedal here, and that operates the back brake, but you also have a lever up here that looks like a clutch lever, but actually that also operates the back brake. And that's for when you're in difficult situations and you need both feet on the ground but you want to pull the brake. So it has all these really unique features. It is a bike, as I said, I've been very interested in, and they're very rare, particularly in Scotland. There's just not very many around, and when I got the opportunity of this bike, you know, I grabbed it. I'm aware that it needs quite a bit of work. In fact, I haven't even started it up. I don't know the condition of the engine. The speedometer is saying 4,000 miles. I would guess that's probably correct. So I'm not really worried about the engine. One of the great things about these bikes is that they're so easy to work on anyway. You know, the only thing I would probably struggle to get parts for would be the high-low ratio gearbox here at the back. But apart from that, most of the parts I'll be able to get them. Some will be a bit more difficult than others. As you can see here, the headlamp is pretty smashed up, but I have managed to get a cowl for that, so that's okay. I need a back bracket here for the light. That might be quite difficult to get a hold of, but I'll see what I can do. Seat covers are available. I can get a seat cover for this, so that's not a problem. Structurally, the bike is actually very good. The frame, I don't know what part of America it came from, but the frame is really solid. It's a really solid frame, so I have no issues or worries there. Even the exhaust is very solid, so again, I'm pleased about that. There's no rot as such. We have surface rust, etc., but that's only to be expected. So I do intend to either powder coat this frame or paint it, just purely for durability and aesthetically as well, I suppose. When they use these bikes in America, they were designed as off-road. Herb had looked at what they call goat totes, which was a little frame with 2 wheels, a wooden platform with a seat, and a Briggs & Stratton engine with a trailer usually. And he had thought, well, you know, the Cub's going to do a far better job than these goat totes, and he was absolutely right. So the accessories with these bikes is obviously the large rack here, and I've seen pictures of actually game, you know, hanging around the back here. So they're real workhorses. I've also seen them with gun carriers fitted at the front. So obviously in this country that's a big no-no for most of us anyway. But in America, and you know, it's a different lifestyle, and so Honda listened to that lifestyle, you know, and they created something that really took off. And I know, listening to my American cousins, that some of them have a real emotional connection to this bike. They grew up, they learned how to ride on one of these. They had great times in the outdoors with them. So they are an iconic bike. And even going back to the format of the engine, you know, these, as we know, the Cub, the Super Cub, and all the variations of it. It's the biggest selling vehicle in the world, you know, I believe it's over 120 million of them being sold. So this engine format has mobilised virtually the whole world. So it's an iconic bike, and particularly in this form. One of the other uses was that the Australian post office used them, and I know there's a big following in Australia for these bikes as well, and lots of adventures are taking place with them. They use them in the outback, they use them for long distance camping, etc. So they're great bikes, you know, they're really, they're such a great design. Top speed wise, I think the engine puts out about 8 horsepower, so they're not phenomenally fast, probably about 50 miles an hour, comparable with the Cub, maybe slightly slower with the knobbly tyres and maybe a little bit more weight. However, that's not the point of this bike. The point of this bike is it's a workhorse, what it can do. And I'm certainly looking forward to having some adventures with it. It's a bike I'm going to put some care and attention into, and I'm going to get it absolutely as good as I can get it. But again, it's not going to be a show bike. This is going to be a bike for using. I'm going to build it in a way for using it. Another feature of this bike, one of the accessories that was created, and I don't know if it was for this particular model or for the later model, was it had the accessory fuel tank that bolted on this side here. I would like to try and get one for this. I think that would be a really worthwhile accessory to have. The tank itself, I think, is a decent size. It's bigger than the Cub. When I look at it, it actually looks bigger. Whether it actually holds more or not, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to hold a tremendous amount, but it's physically it looks slightly bigger. This is one of the things that Herbio complained about. He didn't like the fact that the seat height was higher from the Cub. However, that'll vary between people how they find that. This is a KO model, 1968. The 69 onwards, the K1, K2, etc., they were slightly different. They had telescopic forks and a different type of air filter that came up here. They also had a shield that came and covered this part. They had a slightly different look. The early versions of them also had the high-low gearbox, so that was really, you know, that's a really desirable model to have as well. And saying that, I think that this lead and link type, maybe not as good as the telescopic type. When I look at this compared with the Cub, it certainly looks like it's beefed up quite a bit, so it should be able to handle, it'll be able to handle what I'm going to give it anyway. So there we have it. This is an exciting project for me. It will have to wait a little while because I've got the 404 to do first of all, but I thought I'd make this short video just to introduce it and also to get your comments and suggestions of what you think I should do. How do you think I should approach it? My thinking now is to, you know, make it into a really good, solid, usable bike. But anybody who has experience of renovating or restoring one of these, I'd really appreciate your input from that. So in the meantime, I will update you when I do begin this project. I'll document it in video as to what actually is done to the bike. Okay, so thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, ride safe, and I'll catch you in the next one.